turn off the music. I forgot it was still going. It's like plays in my head all the time. That's why I didn't realize it was still going. All right. Well, you guys are here today to learn more about market analysis. Some of you may have done them, or you may be really great at them and just wanting to maybe learn new tips and tricks in a new market, or some of you may just be starting this process, and that's okay. This is definitely something for all levels. The most important part about doing a market analysis is getting as close as possible to what the market is saying and making sure that you list to sell, so that way your clients get the best of both worlds, a quick experience and more money in their pocket, which is really what they want, right? So thank you all for showing up early this morning. I know it's a 9 a.m. class, and I know we're realtors, and 10 a.m. the snooze button goes on, right? But I really appreciate y'all showing up early to come and kind of learn more. This is interactive. I want y'all to ask questions or share your knowledge if you have it. I'm willing, just raise your hand. If you have a difference in opinion, that's okay. One thing I want y'all to know about this course and doing market analysis, there's no right or wrong way to do them. There's just a way that fits you best. And what I hope that you take from this is that you get 1 or 2 pieces of information that help you get a little bit better and a little bit closer to those numbers. If anything, it may also help you talk to your clients and help educate them as to why you're giving them a range of numbers, what they look like, and how that might affect the sale of their property. Okay, so that's really what this class is about. You may or may not have MLS access at this point. It's okay if you don't. You don't have to follow along. You are welcome to be on your laptop and working within the MLS. I hope that you have everything silenced, phones, and if your phone rings to your computer, make sure that's silenced, because my brain will get, and I know we're all doing business, that's okay, but my brain will get sidetracked, and it takes me like 10 minutes to come back to what I was talking about. So for your sake, please silence your stuff, and for everybody's time today. So we have about an hour and a half of class. We may get done a little sooner. I will keep you on track, though. We won't go past that 10:30 point. We do have a lease writing class just after this. At the end, Beth Nickerson will be coming in. She is a lender, so if you have questions about the lending process or what the lender views the appraisal process, she can answer those for you as well. So she'll be here between the 10:30 and 11 break before the lease portion or the secondary lease class. So I know most of you, all of you actually. My name is Kristen. I'm your assistant team leader, and I coach a lot of you into production, or just to remind y'all that this is the roller coaster of real estate, so just hold on tight. It's going to be okay. And just let you know that, that's right, woo! That everything you experience in this business, I've experienced, and many others have experienced, and most of them in this office for years. We have people with plenty of experience that you can always ask questions or go to, or just to vent and go, am I crazy for doing this? Yes, you are, but that's okay. Your clients are so happy that you're crazy enough to take the risk to work with them and care about them and help them in whatever that they endeavor to do. So I was an agent. Let's see, my first year was kind of crazy. I had an 8-month-old. I found out I was sick. I had cancer. I'm in remission. It was fine. It was thyroid cancer. And I did about 1.8 million my first year. Despite all of that, and my second year I did just about 4 million, and then my third year I did about 5 million, and then last year before I took the role I did just about 5 million before I took the role, which was half the year. I can tell you that whole story of how I made as much money in 6 months as I did the year before, and the only fancy thing I did that was different was I picked up the phone, that thing that we're all nervous to do, right, and just loved on my people. So that's a different class. All right, so listings are my absolute favorite thing. Even if you are in a world where you work with more buyers, that's okay, because you still have to do a market analysis for your buyers. You should be showing them what the market is saying, that home price point should be. So if you are about to submit an offer, you should always run a market analysis for your buyer, and you should always provide them a net sheet of what the costs could be on an estimate. So that way they know and understand what they're getting into before they sign on the dotted line. Any questions about that? All right, so show of hands, how many work with more sellers than buyers? Couple, okay, and so the rest are more buyers than sellers? Okay, and some of us are newer, so we're not quite sure yet, and that's okay. If you're not on a team, you'll be a listing agent. Promise you, because that'll keep you in business longer. You can take 22 listings to working with 8 buyers, so for your time's sake, you want to be a listing agent. That does not mean you won't work with buyers. You will still do that. So, all right, well, we're going to jump right in. We have someone else that's going to walk in, so we'll wait for them to come on through. Come on in. Good to see you. Have a seat wherever you like. The form's pretty much wherever there's an empty one. So I'm going to use, for the purpose of today's class, I'm going to use Actress, which is the Austin MLS. You may have CTX MLS, you may have Highland Lakes MLS, you may have Netris or HAR. Whatever serves you, you are welcome to use that MLS. It may look a little different than this one, especially if you are in Highland Lakes. They're using Paragon. Whew, good luck. I can help you with that. I've used it before. Your CMA search will look a little different in Paragon. If you're in CTX MLS, they both use the same backend. They both use CoreLogic. So in terms of what you're seeing, whether you're using strictly CTX MLS or Actress, you will both see very similar things. The only difference is with CTX MLS, they have things like measurements for rooms, or they have different statuses. We may get into that conversation. In fact, we probably will. So if you are unsure, you're like, I don't know about that because I've never seen that status before, that's okay. We'll just have a conversation about it, because truthfully, if you're working in Williamson County, you're probably a member of both MLSs, especially if you're working Gerald North. You should be a member of CTX MLS, and if you're working Gerald South, you should have Actress. And if you're working right along those lines, you should have both MLSs. Any question about that? Okay, one more plug I'm going to do before we really get into the numbers is if you put a listing into Actress, excuse me, and you are a member of CTX MLS, you will also need to put that listing in CTX MLS. Any questions about that? If you're a member of Actress and you take a listing, say here in Georgetown, and you're also a member of CTX MLS, that listing needs to go both in Actress and in CTX MLS. If you're a member of both, your listing is required to go into both. If you have listings that are not in both, let me know after this. We don't have to have a conversation about it right now. We can fix you up, make sure you're on par with what the MLS rules state, okay? But that's something that I think has been confusing, and I just want to get the word out that it's about your client's best interest. And being in real estate is an investment. And so if you're going to choose to sell real estate in this area and north, then you will need to be a part of both MLSs. So just kind of put that in your pocket and remember that. If you haven't started doing deals yet, it's okay to start with Actress if you're more here. If you're Temple Belton, it's okay to start with CTX MLS. And then as you start to merge and blur those lines, then Actress or CTX MLS would be good to join for you.
How far north does CTX go?
It goes up to Fort Hood. Now, I cannot tell you that there won't be Waco properties in CTX MLS. Waco does have their own MLS. That doesn't mean, though, that Fort Hood agents and Temple Belton agents aren't selling in Waco. And if they are, if they're a member of both CTX MLS and Waco's MLS, then they would have the listings in both. Supposed to, anyways. Doesn't mean they do. And same thing, and then it goes, CTX MLS will include some Austin properties. Obviously, Actress will have more Austin properties because it's an Austin MLS. And then CTX also covers Four Rivers, which if you get into Four Rivers or CTX MLS, what happens is you'll see a lot of San Antonio listings. That doesn't mean you can go sell in San Antonio. It just means, unless you're competent in that area, it just means that they have the listings because there are a lot of SABOR, which is San Antonio, agents who have access to CTX MLS because they sell in that area, in Canyon Lake and all of that, okay? Just like you would have CTX MLS if you're selling in Austin and you're selling in Gerald. Okay, yes.
I was just going to say, I think CTX stops at the Bell County line. I think.
CTX actually goes to Fort Hood, so it includes Fort Hood, Temple, Belton. So Fort Hood, Killeen, Copperas Cove, Temple, Belton. It also includes Williamson County, because if you're a member of Williamson County, you may have joined at CTX MLS there. It includes Four Rivers and Victoria, Texas. So some of you may know about Victoria, but that's near the coast. Oh, yeah.
I just meant we was talking about like how far north it goes.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, I know it includes Troy, and I'm not sure about Moody, but Moody is technically, I mean, that's in McLennan County.
Yeah, so county is a little different. It just depends on where the agents serve. So it's kind of, you have your choice of MLS. You're not required, just because you live in Waco doesn't mean you're required to join their MLS, or just because you live in Williamson County doesn't mean you're required to join CTX MLS. It's just suggested for your client's best interest. If you're servicing Moody and you live, let's say, Temple Belton, but you're servicing Moody, and where's Moody? Is that closer to Waco?
It's like right in the middle.
Right in the middle.
In
So chances are, as an agent, you're going to have both Waco MLS and CTX MLS, so you can service Moody, because both Waco agents and Temple, Belton, Fort Hood, Killeen agents will also be servicing that area. So it's about the way you choose to be a part of an MLS is really important to your market analysis, and that's why we're having this conversation, because you need to know every single possible comp that's out there, so you can go in with all of the knowledge that you can possibly have. Because what's happened now that there's regional MLS amongst the others, you will have situations where your client's going to find something on Zillow or Realtor.com, hopefully not anymore now that you guys are setting up landing pages, but that's another note. They'll go find a property and they're going to text you and say, hey, this property is not in the stuff that you've been showing me. Why haven't you sent me this property? This perfectly is what we want. This is everything we need. There's a seat right up front, ma'am. Thank you. And so what will happen is you'll go, oh my gosh, that's not in my MLS. I missed it. Maybe it's a for sale by owner. I'm not understanding. And what has happened is it's in another MLS because an agent from Temple Belton has come to Georgetown and listed a property. Happens all the time. Okay, that means you can't get into that property because they'll have a different MLS box on it. It means you can't really show or really provide for your client in the best way possible. So what I'm saying is, if you're working both areas, it's good. I want you to start with revenue, lead with revenue. So I don't want you to go spend a bunch of money and be a part of all the MLSs. But what I want you to do is, as you start to pick up your buyers and your sellers and you figure out where you're going to sell, where you're competent to sell, that's where you need to start. And then you add on another MLS as you grow your business, okay? But if they're looking in general, chances are you're gonna have to buy into both. Sun City also has a lot of listings in CTX MLS. Now some of them are overlap. They're the same listings in both because, again, if you have Actress and you have CTX MLS, you should be putting your listings in both. So some of them you'll see twice, but occasionally there's going to be that one, and it's going to be that one outlier for your CMA. And it's either going to help or hurt you, and you need to know that, because if an appraiser calls you and says, you know, buyer's agent, I'm sorry, this house isn't appraising. Do you have anything to prove to me that they should be buying at this price? You need to be able to prove to them with comps. And if you don't have everything available to you, it's going to hurt your clients. Okay? Any questions on that? I know that's probably as clear as mud. Y'all have my cell phone number, maybe. I'll give it out to you in a little bit. You can call me if you have questions. But it's, yes.
Sure. So since we are, like, I have CTX and I have A4. And since we have to put something that we put in one in the other, right? Don't we have an obligation to put a lockbox the same way? Like, if I'm listing it in that MLS, am I not obliged to put?
You should. You should. You should. And you shouldn't be putting combos.
Obsolete, like you're saying. People who are finding it and they're like, oh, well, I can't get into that.
So, of course, agents out of this office, I want you to be working in best practice. So if you're a member of both, you should have lockboxes for both, and both lockboxes should go on the property. Because if you're in Gerald and someone from Actress comes to show the house, but you're a CTX member, they can't get in. If you're both and you have both lockboxes, they can get in. What I don't want to see, I'm going to say this loud and clear for everyone online, I don't care what county you're in, I do not want to see combo lock boxes on your properties. Period, end of story. I'm very serious about that. And the reason why is because a combo lockbox doesn't require somebody to have fingerprints to get into the property. And what has happened to me personally is someone has taken a key to one of my listings that was for, and this was when I was brand new and didn't know this, so I'm telling y'all, someone had took a key and gave it to their client before we closed, and the client was moving into the property before we closed, which was a hindrance to my seller. And in this area, that's the normal thing to do, I guess, but not in Austin. We don't do that. And in this office, best practice is to never put a combo box on the property. And if you're going to put a combo box on the property for somebody to get in, like a cleaner or a plumber or something, first of all, the homeowner should always be home. The homeowner should always be home. Doesn't mean you need to be there. And if you are there, you're going to want in writing from the seller, I have advised my agent to put a combo lockbox on the property, or it's even better, they put the combo lockbox and they give their own combo out and then it's on them and not you. Any questions on that? Because what happens is we have people that are CTX MLS, they don't want to be actress members, but they'll put a combo box on and give actress members the key. Well, first of all, if you're not a CTX MLS member and you go show a CTX MLS property, you don't necessarily get commission because you're not a member of the MLS. You have to now do a broker-to-broker agreement to get that commission. Okay, so what I want y'all to know, best practice is if someone says, we'll just use the combo box, broker to broker immediately, have that in writing, that they have advised you to use the combo box. I want you to notate when you went into the property, when you've left the property, because there's no record unless you've done that. As a super box, if someone goes in and leaves the door unlocked after you've shown, you can say, look, I locked the box, someone was there after they've left the door open or whatever, right? So liability purposes, I want you to notate everything that happens after that. Scott, did you have a question?
So I understand if I have a listing in the building and I put both boxes on there, actress and also CTX. So I understand that part, but are you also suggesting that all of our listings down here should have both boxes?
If you're a member of both and you feel like you're going to have a CTX member show up and it's in CTX MLS, you should have one on there. The only other option you have is to show the property, to go open the door for them. And if you're willing to do that, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, I know the lock boxes are 100, 125, 150 bucks depending on where you buy them. You know, keep an eye out for people that are selling lock boxes that are getting out of the business. Hopefully that's none of you guys anytime soon. But keep an eye out for that because normally sell them for 50 to 75 bucks a piece. Sometimes you can get good deals on them and then you just go to the board and fix it up. But I just don't want you putting a combo lockbox on there because you don't want to go open a door. No laziness. No, just go do it because you are working on your client's best interest, not your own. Yes, sir?
I was pretty sure that Tibor was telling us that Atris is supposed to work with.
You're talking about reciprocity. I would love to get in that conversation with you.
I'm
but
about,
with the lock boxes.
I thought that the super key worked with both.
What you're talking about is called reciprocity, and I can't get into that conversation with you because it's political. But what I'll say is that if Fort Hood has a reciprocity agreement with Austin, your key will work, but I will tell you, I don't think they do at this time. Okay. Any questions? I know that's kind of, reciprocity is don't even worry about it. Just know that just have lock boxes, and if you're gonna call and try to get into a property that you're not a member of the MLS, you're still gonna have to negotiate the commission, so it's better just to have the listing agent unlock it. And if you have to use a combo box, just notate what you're doing, when, and have it in writing and put it on your file. Okay? I know this is like a tough conversation to have. Whew, I'm sweating up here. Just want to protect y'all. Any questions about that? I know.
What do you mean by putting it in writing? By emailing you?
Nope, just email it. You can email it to your loop, put it in writing. You can handwrite it, and scan it into your loop. Just something in writing that says, I have entered the property at 9:23 a.m. and I've exited the property at 9:45 a.m.
As a record, I would think that you show that you left the property at a certain
You can. If you are organized, yes. If you're organized and diligent, I would keep that, yes. Yes, yes, yes. I mean, here's the thing. You can't ever have enough documentation in your file, trust me. Okay. All right, we're going to move on to the fun stuff with numbers. If you have more questions about how MLSs work or how to go about that or best practices, just let me know. I'm happy to help you in any way that I can. And yeah, the more you voice your opinion on reciprocity, the better it is for all of us boards. So, all right. Okay, so again, I'm going to start with Actress. If you have a different MLS, again, most of you I think are CTX. Who's CTX? Okay, and then is anybody other than Actress and CTX? HAR, Netris, Waco, Sabor. Okay, perfect. So then most of anyone in Highland Lakes. Okay, Lee, have you sold in Highland Lakes before? Okay, Paragon is woohoo! It's a blast. It's a dinosaur. All right, so let me see. I think, oh, there we go. I'm going to try to make this as big as possible. So the first thing you're going to do, obviously, is you're going to get an address. Read there. Oh, I've read this. Okay, I've read this. Yep. All right. So, hold on just a second. I'm going to make this bigger. I forget I have to make every one of them bigger. Okay, can everyone mostly see that? Okay, so you'll start with an address, and typically what's going to happen when you're doing a market analysis, you either have a buyer that's looking at a property. Obviously you'd want to do the market analysis before they put in an offer, or you have a seller that has called you and you've done maybe even a pre-listing consultation over the phone. You've asked all your questions. You should have an idea of what they want to take from the sale. It's really important before you start your market analysis, or what your buyers can do out of pocket, right? What they want their monthly payment to be and all of that. So the more information you have going into the market analysis process, the better you're going to come out with a strong number. Okay, so you'll start with an address.
Can I give you an address?
Yeah.
5031 Heidenheimer.
Okay, so what county is this in?
Bell County.
Okay. So the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to have you give me that in just 1 second again. Actually, let me write it down. What's the address again?
5031 Heidenheimer, common spell.
Spell it for me.
Heidenheimer.
You're wanting to see what I can do here, huh? Okay. All right. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to the CAD, which is the Appraisal District. And for this address that's in Bell County, we're going to go Bell County CAD. Williamson County, it's going to be WCAD. Travis County, it's going to be Travis CAD. So if when in doubt, you don't know what the CAD is, just Google. I just Googled Bell CAD and it came right up, okay? So what you'll do to start is up here, and of course it's going to be different for every appraisal district. You're going to find the button for property search, and it's going to take you to where you can insert an address. All right, so you're going to go ahead and enter the address. You don't have to follow along. You can run your own while we're doing this. If you are running your own, oops, does that look right? H-E-I-D-E-N, H-E-I-M-E-R?
Yes.
Okay. So if you are running your own, just know at some point you're going to have to look up and look at the numbers we're doing, because when we start to get to the math, I don't want you to get lost in that, okay? So it's going to come up. Is it George or Jorge?
It's, yeah.
Okay.
It's Jorge.
Okay. All right. So it's going to come up with the CAD. Now, Williamson County looks a lot different than this. That's okay. It doesn't matter how different it looks. You're just looking for a few things of information. So you'll want to take notes on this. So the first thing you're going to want to look at is just the legal description, making sure that you have the right property. If you are putting in an offer, this should be on the MLS. It should be similar. If it's not, you want to make note to ask the listing agent what could be the correct legal description. Also, again, just make sure you have the full mailing address correct. Whoops. I'm going to make you guys dizzy because I forget this mouse goes different ways every time. So the other thing that you're looking at here is what type of jurisdictions that it's under. So obviously this one has the appraisal district, it has Bell County, the road, looks like a school district there, and it also has Clearwater UWCD. Does anyone know what that might be? Water district. First note, as a buyer's agent, if you see that, you want to ask for the water district notice. That should be the first thing you do. As a listing agent, you're going to want to make note that you will need that signed by the seller. So in Bell County, there are some interesting water districts and how they run them. We have some information in the loop. If you run across this and you can't find the notice, let me know. Mary CTX Member will also assist you in that. Okay, you need this as a listing agent. This is the first sign that you're going to need this document. And your sellers may not even know that they're in a water district. Maybe they weren't told, maybe they just pay their taxes, they don't look at them because it's easier that way, whatever. You just want to make sure you know that, okay? Any questions on the CAD or the water district?
Who did you say would give us the form?
So title company would give it to you. Most of the time in Williamson County, you can click on these and it'll take you to whatever water district it is. Brushy Creek's a little funky. Oftentimes you have to Google that. And it'll come right up. And what you're looking for is called the Notice to Purchaser. Notice to Purchaser. The NTP, Notice to Purchaser. So yeah, and if you're in Bell County and you're struggling to find it, Mary will help you. But if you're in Williamson and you're struggling to find it, you need to call me or call the title company. The title company can print one out for you. It's just we want you to find the newest one, right? And so sometimes it's not the newest one at the title company. It may be at closing, but it's not at first draw. And if you're the listing agent, they need to sign it before you go under contract.
What was Mary's last name again?
CTX Member.
Common spelling.
Yeah, yeah. Just put down compliance. I'll get you her info. All right, so the other thing that you're looking for is information here. Most importantly, see where up here it says living area? Let's see if I can make this happen. Ooh, right there, see? Fancy. Living area 2304. So that is the square footage of the property. Okay, so you want to make note of the square footage because you're going to need that for your market analysis. Okay, so 2304. And then the other thing it's saying is that it's mobile home there or manufactured home.
Kristen,
Yeah. Yes.
and just because I know there's some folks that are just starting these,
Yep.
if that number is different from, let's say, previous MLS listings, which one do you go with?
So that's a great question. And oftentimes what happens when you pull up MLSs to do a search, you're going to pull this address. Sometimes it will have a previous MLS listing. Sometimes the owner will even say, well, it's actually 2,600 square feet. So what would happen is if you are the selling agent, the listing agent, then what happens is you would do a form that's called Notice of Information from Other Sources. If you take a contracts class, I'll teach you that. We may, if we have time on a Zoom call today, we could go over it. Notice of Information from Other Sources. And what you're going to do is say, hey, the CAD tells me that your square foot is 2304. The MLS tells me your square footage is 2,600 square feet, just to let you know. And then when you're doing your listing appointment, bless you, when you're doing your listing appointment, then you're going to have that conversation of, so what do you think your true square footage is? Why? Do you have a recent appraisal that could show me, or any appraisal that could show me a measurement that we could use? And then if there's a gap, a big gap, or even a fairly good sized gap, then you may just want to pay an appraiser to come out and measure the property, not appraise it, but just measure it. Depends on how you negotiate. Everything's negotiable. Just depends, yeah. But I mean, most of the time you'd ask your seller to get that done.
But you said there's actually a document that you fill out?
Yep, Notice of Information from Other Sources. That document just allows you to give that information to the seller, that they sign and understand that their MLS has the MLS and the CAD, or their information and the CAD are showing two different square footage. And what happens is when you go to do a market analysis, 300 square feet is a difference, especially if you're like 190 a square foot, right? That can make a huge difference to a buyer and to the seller if the buyer's appraiser goes out and does a measurement that's 300 square feet less. Okay? Great question, Scott.
So people can do additions.
Correct.
Or they can enclose the garage
Yep.
and run ductwork to the garage.
Doesn't mean it will count in an appraisal for square footage.
If they, if they finish out the garage though and enclose it.
Correct.
If they provide heating.
Correct.
Now you can include it, right?
It depends on the appraiser. Every appraiser is going to look at that different. They may or may not include it, even if it's a permitted addition or enclosure. So what I would suggest in that case, if they're swearing by that extra 300 square foot, that the appraiser is going to put that on there, is just to go ahead and pay the $125, $150 to have an appraiser come out. And because $150 is a whole heck of a lot of money or a little bit less of an amount of money than it is to the whole heck of amount of money when you're going, okay, well, it's 300 square feet difference at $100 a square foot. You know, that's a pretty big difference in a price, especially in a situation where you've been on the market a while and, you know, people are looking for every way to negotiate out of that price point. So don't ever assume. Don't ever assume. And you're going to have people that are adamant, and that's okay. I understand that this is confusing, that appraisers can kind of have an opinion on that depending on what county they're in or where they're coming from. Sometimes you'll have Dallas appraisers come to Georgetown and do appraisal. You think Dallas appraisers know what they're doing in Georgetown? No, but do they do it? Yes. So,
But you said like $150. I mean, are there appraisers that
they'll come and measure for $150. Yeah.
oh, just do measure?
Yeah. You don't want to get an appraisal. Don't get an appraisal. Daniel?
Just a real basic thing, because just so I didn't miss anything. The way you've portrayed this so far, in everyday world, you got a custom client point, deed listings or buyer.
Mm-hmm.
Your process, for most of us, I hope I'm saying this right, you do a CMA. You
Yeah.
do a CMA. You get prepared
Yep.
knowledge-wise for the property.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and the reason why you're looking at the CAD is because if they've told you in a pre-listing conversation, hey, my square footage is 26, and you look here and it's 2304, you've got a difference. Now, you're not going to automatically call them out and be like, you're wrong, the CAD says this, because sometimes the CAD is wrong. And that's okay, but what you want to do is present the CMA with that notice of information from other sources. And then when we do the CMA, you're going to want to say, okay, this is what properties at 2,600 square feet look like. This is what 2,300 square feet look like. Here's a market analysis for both of them. Let's go ahead and get it measured just to be on the safe side. It takes you an extra 10 minutes, really. Once you really get this down, it's like 10 minutes of extra work, and your clients will be like, wow, you're a pro. Yes?
Do you ever find there's any difference between this and Realist?
Not often, no.
Because I usually start at Realist.
Not often, no, but Realist, especially now because it's in Actress, makes it a little easier. I always double check though, just to be sure, because Realist pulls from the tax records, but it also pulls from the MLS. And I don't know, I always double check just to be sure. And then you really have to have the CAD information in your loop anyways. It's requested by compliance to make sure you have, so if it's Realist or CAD, I put both, and I actually give them both Realist and CAD, because Realist gives a little bit more information about the history of the property, like if they've refinanced a loan. I love that part of it, but I also show the CAD to show that they meet up. Yeah. All right, any questions on that? All right, we're gonna move forward. Okay, so really that's what you want to be looking at. And then here I always take a look at how the price has improved over the years, just to kind of give you an idea of what the county is thinking. And obviously, last year, 2017 to 2018, there was a little less, or yeah, a little more than $1,000 loss. And then boop, it's up like what? Almost, how many grand is that? Like 14 grand or something? Okay. So that just gives me an idea of what might be going on in the neighborhood if I don't, really know what has changed. All right, so that's the first thing we're going to do. You'll print this. I highlight all those sections. I highlight the square footage area. I highlight the legal description, and then I highlight 2019 and what they're guessing at what that's going to be. Okay? And so then I go back to the MLS, and I'm going to start my search. This is a step-by-step process. After we get through the class, you're going to have questions. You're going to be like, what did she say? All of it is here. Some of these steps are going to be dependent on what you know about the property or how many times you've done this before. So you may start to know an area, like I live in Forest Creek. I know the area very well, so I know exactly what I'm looking for. So do I go by every single step on this? No, because I know what to pull out of there, and I know what to kind of put into the MLS because of the age of the home, the difference of the builds, and what section you're in, and all of that. This is just to get you started, and it's a pretty pinpoint way to set up a range of price, okay? So to start, obviously it says log into your MLS. You can save their info. I'm not going to go too deep into that. If you haven't taken an MLS class yet, depending on whichever you're a part of, I would go do that, learn how to save a client's info, and learn how to do fancy searches, like using the asterisk and all that stuff. I don't do that. I just, basics is fine with me. It has always worked. My average days on market is 7, so it's always worked. I just stick to the basics, and if you want to be fancy, go for it. You might even get faster at it. So we're going to search solds, pendings, and taking backups. I also include actives and active contingent in there. If you were in CTX MLS, this is where the confusion is going to come in, because in CTX MLS, there's not an active contingent status. There's a U for under, or no, I'm sorry, there's a, what is it?
It's O for.
Thank you. Oh, right. O for option.
Yeah.
Yes, O for option, and then you'll have pending and pending taking backups. So they don't have a way that you can market active contingent. I'm not going to get in that conversation again. It's just a difference of opinion. But either way, you'll want to include those that are O for option if you're in CTX MLS. Okay? So go ahead and select all of these. You can include pending over 4 months. If there's something pending over 4 months, the only thing you want to know is what not to do first and foremost, because that's too long to be pending. Oftentimes it's like a foundation repair, or they have to like redo the whole septic, or it's something like big. So, but you can include that. Most importantly, on this sold information, you don't want to go back more than 90 days if you can help it, especially in the market that we're having. Now, Lee, how long have you been selling?
13.
Okay, and would you say that it's true that even certain areas and certain markets have their own kind of sold time frame? Yes. So like in some neighborhoods they'll sell in like a week. In other neighborhoods could be across the street, it takes 90 days to sell or 180 days to sell. So what I would suggest to you, and this is why competence is really important, is to know the areas that you're selling within, because your CMAs are going to be that much better. Because now Lee can go in and say, oh, I know this section of Forest Creek is going to sell like this, but this section of Forest Creek is going to take a good 6 months to sell if it's not priced right, because typically they're under updated or whatever. Maybe it doesn't have a great lot, who knows. Most of them don't take that long. But
depends on the time of year you're searching as well.
100%.
January, if I'm looking at January and I go back 90 days versus July and I go back maybe 120 or 150 days.
Right.
Season. So
Right.
it just depends.
It absolutely does. So if you didn't get that, she's saying that it also depends on the time of the year that it is, right? Because if you're selling in the top of the market, things are selling a little quicker, so you don't want to include comps from January where things are just not selling, or the people that are selling only have to sell, because that market really doesn't start till end of February, beginning of March, right? But if you're selling in January, then 30 days is probably appropriate. If you go back any further than that, then you're in the fall. I call it the rush hour, right? The top of the market in fall, and you're getting those numbers. So you're going to be very, conscientious about the times of the year that you're choosing and the numbers that go there. Most appraisers only want to see 3 months, though. If you have an oddball property that has land in the middle of the city or is a brand new build amongst those that are not brand new builds, that's going to be where you have to start really knowing your stuff and where to look and how to comp those. And we'll talk about that if we have time. Okay? Yes?
Would you choose to go time or further out and more recently sold looking at comps?
Sold time. So what you're doing is now back because we don't know the future. The only reason why we're putting in the active, contingent, and pending is because we're seeing what our competition is and what the current pendings, how long did they take to sell, and why was it fast and why was it slow.
What I'm saying is if you don't see any local, any comps, would you go further back in time or would you go further out?
Well, it depends. It depends. So, for instance, I had a property in, it was in Forest Creek. It's actually off of Redbud where they're brand new builds, like right off of Redbud. And it was literally a new build. My clients had purchased it. They were in it for about a year and a half. And then they wanted to sell because they thought they loved the golf course, but they didn't like the road, right? So they wanted to move out to Serenata. Totally different world. So I'm like, awesome. So what I had to do was, okay, there are no comps other than the ones that have recently sold, and that was when they purchased theirs. So of course we didn't want to go backwards because they were going to lose money. So then I chose to go out. And I had to find other properties that some of them had land, some of them had the square footage, some of them had the updates. They were all a little different, but I had to go out, say why I chose them, and present those. And we were still able to, they still made a good profit on that house in a year and a half. Yeah. So I went out instead of back.
So I know in Temple, like I think your answer was perfect. It depends because it's like there can be different sections where on this side of the street, like you got 31st, which kind of splits the south part of Temple. Over here, homes are $60 a square foot.
Yes.
You know, I mean, all of them are. And then, but you go on the other side, and those homes are 120 a square foot. So going wide in that instance is just going to skew your numbers.
Yeah, and you have to kind of think like an appraiser too when you're doing this is what would they do if they didn't really know the area, especially if they're coming from out of town. And this is why competency is really key, is because if you know that, you'll be able to comp it correctly because you'll know instead of going wide, I'm going to go back. But if you didn't know that, chances are you're going to go wide and you're going to go, well, look at this house. It only sold for this, and you have no clue why it sold for $60 a square foot as opposed to $100. Right? So knowing that is really half the battle. Right? Okay.
So question.
Yes.
Like in Forest Creek, you also take into consideration the builders. Say if you got like Toll Brothers or Reese selling on one side, you got Kimball Hill.
Oh, 100%.
You got the same
Yeah.
square footage. But
you have
the Ryland's like super upgraded, really close to the Toll Brothers, but you still.
Yeah, because here's the thing. I think it's Forest Grove is what you possibly are talking about. Forest Creek. So I actually used Forest Grove, which is across the street, but they were new builds, and everything else in Forest Creek is, 2012 is maybe the newest, and that's in Section 3. And then you're talking upgrades that were from like Houston upgrades where they did a major, they put out a lot of money, let's just say that, to build these homes. And so your price points for a much smaller home than what you'd get in actual Forest Creek were much higher because you had these outrageous upgrades. They were really nice homes. So what I would suggest in that case is I went wide. Right, so I went across the street because I knew KB Homes was selling over there. I knew Drees was selling over there, and so I could use those new builds as a comp. Okay, and then of course I had to comp their lot, and their lot was on a golf course, and it was beautiful, and yada yada yada. So then I had to go wide and look for other properties that might have land or lots similar, so I can prove not only did it have the new build, it compared to new builds, but also compared in lot for the things that we're selling around. Sometimes it's a stretch. You really got to dig and look and be very, very pertinent about those facts. And put them in writing so that way you can provide that to the appraiser if something were to come up. Now, if you're the buyer, your client's best interest is the most important thing. So do you really want to find all the best price properties? Well, it depends. They don't necessarily want to overpay for something, right? So then your market analysis may look different than a listing agent's market analysis. Would that be fair? Okay. All right. So you're going to do, for now, for this purpose, we're going to do 90 days. This might be a challenge in this property. We may have to go wide or go back, depending. Okay, so the next thing is over here, you're going to put in square footage. This thing is kind of funky sometimes, so whoop, right there. So you're going to put square foot, and then we're going to talk about age. So the first thing we're going to do in square footage, so it was 2,300 square feet. So you're going to go 10% less and 10% more if you choose to do that. I'm going to go ahead and just round them. I'm going to go 2,100 to 2,500. Okay. But 10% up or down is really best. Now, some neighborhoods are cookie cutter. Every other house is going to be like a very similar layout, model, square footage. Maybe it's 5 up or down. Maybe they moved a wall or something, but it's not going to be much difference. So being really tight on those numbers is probably going to be better for you, so you don't get this huge amount of properties that you pull up in terms of results. But if you're in a neighborhood where they're custom homes, or let's say you're only pulling 1 or 2 results at the end of it, then you can start widening your range for some of these things, like age and square footage. Does that make sense? Okay. So it says your best results, I'm sorry, okay, we put in square footage, then we're going to go ahead and put in age. So what did we say this was? It was 99? Thank you. I'm like, where did you see that?
On the second to right column, mobile home, 1999.
Oh, okay. Thank you. There it is. 1999. All right. So I'm going to write that down. Yes, you can.
So if you notice on the improvements column, because it's a mobile home, the improvements are decreasing every year.
Correct.
The land value was like stagnant and then just completely jumped that in 2019.
Right.
So something's happening around there.
Yes.
But just for people that are going to work with mobile home properties, and there was a pretty significant reduction
Yeah.
in 2018 because it was 20
yeah.
years old
Yeah.
at that point. So
Yep.
that's kind of a cutoff for mobile homes.
That 10-year mark. Yeah.
Um,
Right here.
Right here.
So it goes from 33,601 to 19,530. Whereas the land, they're valuing the land from 25 to, it's more than double, 52.5.
Yeah, because I think some lenders for mobile homes is like a 15-year cutoff, but it seems like for them 20 years is kind of like, okay, that's the life of this mobile home.
And Beth Nickerson, who's going to be joining us at the very end just to talk about some of the things that she does, they do lend on manufactured housing, so mobile homes. All right. So we're going to go back to Matrix, and we're going to put in, so 1999, this is a different type of property than typically most of you will be selling. However, when you're looking at, let's say, a new construction, you're going to want to stick new construction to new construction. So this year's 2019, right? We're in 2019. So I wouldn't go any farther back than 2018. Because 2018 they may have started the build, right? And sometimes it takes them a while to get going, or they list it before sticks go up. So in 2018 and forward would be appropriate for new build. 2017 behind is resale, typically, unless it's just been on the market, it's a brand new build, but I wouldn't comp it as a new build compared to yours if it was listed right now. Okay. On the other hand, let's say you're selling a home here in downtown Georgetown and it's a historical home. That's a whole different ballgame. You're going to want to list in that historical range. And I would do some research and say, okay, well, what are the average ages of the homes that are in this area, right? And so just know that and put those ranges in. So you could even do 1990 and under. Because you're going to pull all the historical homes because some of them have been rebuilt, right? So you might want to do that. But just be aware of those things when you're going in. You're not going to pull homes from 2018 to comp this property. Okay? Any questions? Doing okay back there, Scott?
So I normally I try to go plus or minus 3 years
Mm-hmm.
before I start.
Mm-hmm.
And I go out from there. And if, like you said, if it's a
Yes. Now, the most important thing though is if you know you're in a neighborhood where there are new builds being built, you're going to want to see what they're priced at. Okay, so that won't be an actual comp. However, you'll want to say, look, on the phone you told me you wanted a list for $325,000. This new build's on the market for $315,000. They get a fridge, they get a washer dryer, and the realtor gets a 2% bonus. If you were a buyer, what would you do? So don't completely take those out because you need those to help negotiate with your client. So just be aware of those, because if you completely cut them out, you don't have the whole picture. And they're going to say to you, you know what, Scott, I want to list at the top of the price range that you gave me. And you're going to say, that's great. And how long is it going to take me to sell? Because now I'm competing. If they're at the top, I'm competing now with those new builds. So where do we sit? So it's important to know those things. On historical homes, 3 years is not enough time, because the historical essence, if you will, of the properties can range. So the ones in 1960 are probably as great as the 1940. It depends on how they're updated or whatnot. So you'll want to do a wider range in that. So for this property, what I'm going to suggest is that we go let's say 1995, just to see what else is out there, because I don't know the area. And then it's 1999, so let's do 2000. Because anything over 2000 is going to feel to a buyer like it's too new, if that makes sense. Okay? And of course, get a feel for it, because there might be a ton of properties that match this one in 2001. You don't know, but get a feel for it. So right now, just with this information, I haven't even put the city yet. We have 322 matches. So,
Question.
yes.
Since we're doing manufactured, are you going to click manufactured and mobile home on the sub-property type?
I'm going to see how many properties pull up. So what she asks is if I'm going to click manufactured or mobile home on the type. I really only want to comp it to those, but I want to see what else is selling out there with the land. And did we look actually for this?
Is it real estate though? Like, is it on a slab?
Oh.
Hold on just a second.
Slab, or is it have the siding around the bottom, or is
Yeah,
it on
it has
the
the skirting, but it's not on the slab.
It's not on a slab, okay, then yeah, it should be.
It's more land then.
I think
Okay.
it's
It's,
2 acres.
uh, should be
4
4
acres. Acres, 4.
Acres, 4. Thank you.
There's got to be someone else on here that's
There it is, it's further down.
further down.
It is. I'm probably missed it. I'm so close that I'm like, oh.
Yeah, scroll down. There's a land, property improvement, this one should be land.
Oh yeah, right here, right?
Keep going down.
Keep going.
Right there, 4 acres. Perfect. Okay. So what was actually coming? Oh, that's what I was looking for, acres. Okay. Oh wait, actual city is Temple. Okay. So in the subdivision, is it in a subdivision? Let's see.
well,
No.
it's out in the country.
It's out in the country. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull Temple and see what's going to match this. Okay. So is it on the market right now?
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
So that was a tough one because there wasn't really anything to compare it to.
I think I have it overpriced, to be honest with you. because-
Okay, I will help you with this one. Let me go to a more mainstream property and I'll help you with this one afterwards. Okay, someone give me another address. Anything. Or I can use mine.
3839 Hardy Clinic.
Ah, Forest Creek.
Yeah.
This is your house?
What's
Your
that?
house?
No, I sold it a while
Or you
back.
sold it?
Okay, I'm going to do what we did really quickly and I'll verbalize it as I go through. So now I'm in WCAD. I'm pulling up the same information. Oops. Yeah, okay. Harvey. Okay. So this one,
Here, a little more.
yeah. So here's, again, there's that upper Brushy Creek. See how it's blue? You can click on that, just FYI. So we're at 3022 square feet. I said 3022 square feet. So obviously we're still fighting property taxes right now, so you're not going to see the actual 2019, but you can kind of see how it's moving there. Forest Creek is, again, just bumping up quite a bit there, about 30,000. I know mine went up about 30,000. So it looks like it was built, did we see that? Where's that at? 2003 is what I'm guessing is what they put on it. This is why you get really good at looking at other CADs if you're selling that in the area. So I'm going to say 2003. We'll find out in what the MLS is here. All right, so you'll print this and then you'll put it in your loop. All right, so here are past MLSs. I'm going to look at the single line because there's two and I want to get the most recent. So that one was the most recent because it was leased. So this is the one we're really going to go off of. All right, so here's what I'm looking at, the first couple things I'm looking at. I want to make sure that the year built is what I guessed at because what we have. So 2003 is correct. And if it was a property you've sold before, you'll know these things. This one doesn't have, well, it does have the lot size over there at 0.25. You're looking at some of these things you may know, but I'm going to point them out just in case you don't, if you didn't do a pre-listing or if you're doing a market analysis to help someone fight, protest their taxes. So it's a 4-bed, 3-bath, and really it's a 2.5. So I'm going to write that down for 2.5. Okay. It's in Forest Creek. Section 31, that may or may not be important depending on how you're doing the search and how many come up. All right, and then I am, square footage right here. I don't know if you see this. 3022. So far so good. We're right on point for the square footage, so 3022. And I also, since I have the information in front of me, I'm going to look. It has a 2-car garage because in Forest Creek there are a few that have more. And then I'm going to look. It's a 2-story home, so that's important. 2-story. Okay, these are all details that I'm looking for. And I'm going to look, since it's a 2-story home, what's really important is the master on the main. In this area specifically, it's really important to know that, because it actually sells for less if it's not. And boy, this would be a great one to sell. I've seen 3 people looking for 2 master suites, so that's good to know. But master on main, yes, and it has 2 master suites. So I would make note of that as well.
What does that mean, 2 master suites?
That it has, well, it depends on how the agent views that. So most of the time that's going to mean that you have 2 large rooms that have ensuite, which means the bathrooms are adjoining to the room or attached to the room, that there's no other secondary entry, that it's like a private bath and a private room. So
usually like the guest with the
yeah,
bathroom up front, right? Like
yes, yeah. Now 2 masters doesn't mean you have like a guest room and then they have to like walk across to go to the bathroom. That's not a master. So that would mean that there is probably a half bath or somewhere else. Now they may mean it to be that because it really is only, it's a 4-3, so 4 2.5, which would mean
only half of that is left for the master.
yeah. So that's interesting. Let's go down and look at the. It's a 5th bedroom, flex room. So yeah, you'd really have to go look at it and see if it is and how the agent meant but what they meant by that.
Yeah, I didn't have 2 master suites, so I don't know how they did that.
Okay.
Because it's either they took out the game room, but it shows game up there.
Uh-huh.
And they converted the game room to a master upstairs and created a separate bathroom.
Yeah, well, it says flex room 5th bedroom, so it sounds like they didn't do that. Yeah. All right, so all good things to know. All right, so let's go back and do this search because you guys, I know we're going to have more questions about that. So are we okay moving on to the search? Okay, so we're going to go back and we're going to do exactly what we were doing before, maybe, if it wants to. You can do it. There it goes. So I'm going to select, and this is definitely one you can go back 90 days on. So subdivision, I'm going to just do Forest Creek and see what we come up with. We may come up with quite a bit. So the first thing is, once I put in the subdivision, I already want to see how many matches I have. 46, that's way too many. You don't need that many, right? So now you're going to go back to your little chart, and you're going to start putting in the square footage. So it was 3022. Let's do this 10% up or down. Does anyone?
7 to 38.
Okay. Thank you. All right. And that's a pretty fair size, I think, for that. And the year built is going to be, we said 2003, so I would do 2000 is fine. And then it says 5 years above or below. I don't know if I'd go 1999 on this one. I think I'd go 2000 to 2005. So just do a 5-year range. Okay, so right now we're at 5 matches before we even add that it's a 2-story. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and look and see what's there, and then determine if they're all single story, we're going to go back and have to make some changes. Okay, we'll probably widen the age. Okay, so let's look at the results. So they are all 2 stories. The first thing that I do, though, is I click on square footage, so it will arrange it from lowest to largest. Because if you have 16 or 20 or 40 matches and you've built the CMA based off these steps, then you're going to want to tighten your range. And what I do is I look at all of them. I look at the square footage. I look to see how much stuff matches, and then I'll pick out of the range. Does that make sense? So if there's 16, I may pick 8. I really want 3 sold comps out of everything, and good news is we have 4 sold comps and an active, which is great. So I want at least 3 sold comps if you could pull it. 2 is a little tight, so you may have to stretch out either time frame or go wider if there's nothing in the area. But 3 sold comps, and then I'll include for my client what's active and what's pending. Why do you think other reasons would be to include an active or a pending? Show them competition, huh? How long it's sat on the market, yep. So what happens, though, if you don't include an active and you're on the market for 30 days? What's going to happen to the active, hopefully?
It's going to reduce.
It's either going to reduce, it's going to go under contract. So you guys want to have a measure. So the active is like a pinpoint. This is, okay, this is where this one is starting. If you're on the market 30 days, they've refused to do a price reduction, which hopefully with this market analysis you won't have to. But if that's the case, you want to go back and look at where that active is at. Is it pending? Has it been sold already, or is it still active? How many price reductions have they done? But you need a starting point. So by including that, at least in your market analysis, as a pinpoint to look and to watch, it gives them more information. Any questions on that part? Okay. So a couple of things. I didn't look. Oh, 0.25 was the kind of the acreage, the lot size, okay? So if I'm looking over here at acres, we've got a 0.34. That's quite a bit bigger, but then these 16 and 18 and 16 are a little bit smaller. So really in size, you have a 4.2.5 right here. It's 3128 square feet, so it's about right on, and it's got the lot size. Okay, so that's probably our closest comp. But then you have over here, this is a 4.3.5, this Lord Byron. So anyways, let's go ahead and just select them all, because they're all pretty much a good fit. 4.2. Oh, that's up here. I just checked the boxes right up there. Uh-huh. Okay, and so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just click on the first one, and we're going to start the market analysis. So we're going to start looking at the similarities. You'll notice here on the bottom it talks about you're going to find as many similarities to the property that you know of, which is why it's important when you're doing a pre-listing consultation. It's really important you ask questions like, what have you updated in the home? Have you done any upgrades? Because you know updates and upgrades are 2 different things, right? Just because you went from Formica to something solid and it's not granite or it's not quartz in this day and age, right? That doesn't necessarily mean it's an upgrade, it's an update. Okay? If you took the big light out of the kitchen and you put in can lighting, that's an upgrade, right? Putting in a new light bulb is an update, or changing out the plastic that goes on it because it's discolored. That's an update. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. Changing out the commodes, that's an update, not an upgrade. Unless you have like the fancy ones that open by themselves and do all kinds of things, and then maybe that's an upgrade, but don't do that. Tell your clients, please don't do that. Unless you're in a certain style of home, don't do that.
How about regular elongated?
No, just an update. Update, not an upgrade, right? And you're not really going to add a ton of price, perfection for updates, because it should have been updated even if it was delayed maintenance, okay?
Depends on who you ask.
That's right. Just saying. So, and then on the back of this, it's talking about general notes. So if there's a converted garage, then obviously you want to compare to as many converted garages. If there's not any in the neighborhood, you need to make note of that because it's the only one, and that could be a bad thing as opposed to a good thing. Okay? Same thing as a pool. If you're the only one in the neighborhood with a pool, it's not necessarily a great thing. Pools are 50-50. You cut down a lot of your buyer population if you have a pool. If everyone in the neighborhood has a pool, then you're going to find it easy to comp. If they don't, it's going to be a challenge, which may or may not be a good thing depending on the property. And then it talks about if you go outside of the first 3 search criteria, you'll have to have a good reason. So again, we talked about making sure that you know why you're going outside of it if you can't find something to comp the property. Basements, I've heard of some north having basements. It's still very rare. Has anybody run across a listing with a basement? Lago Vista. Okay, so that's good to know. So you'll need to comp it to that and be prepared for that. Okay, so let's go through this and see what it's showing. So it's 2,740 square feet. That's a good amount of less than what we're listing at. However, we want to see, or what we're listing, we want to kind of see where they price at and how fast they sold. So it's a 4.2.5. It's got 0.34 acres. So that's a pretty good size lot. We're at 0.25, so it's still a little bit larger than ours. We don't know though if that's more in the front yard or in the back. We don't know because we haven't seen the property. It's got a 2-car garage.
Not
Huh?
a 2-car garage?
It does have a 2-car garage.
Okay.
And master is on main. That's a good thing, right? So that will compare to our property. I always look at the kitchen to see what the updates are. If it doesn't say granite or trash compactor or something like that, I know that it probably needs some updates depending on how it compares to ours. So this one says dishwasher, dish disposal, microwave, range, breakfast area, breakfast bar. Doesn't say island or anything. So it's pretty basic in terms of its upgrades. And then I really like to go down here because I know you guys will put a description in the agent remarks. And what I want to see there is if anything has been updated. Is there any special features? What should I know that's going to sell me this property or my clients this property? Okay. So normally I'd go in there and see if there's anything, it's, new carpet or recent carpet. Don't use new, just recent. Recent carpet, recent paint, recent water heater. Okay. So this is a basic property. So I'll leave it in for now because we only really have 4 solds. Okay. So they listed, what I'm going to do is down here, everyone can see, I'm looking at this information. So the original listing price, that's the OLP right here, was $319,900. It sold for $319,900. It went under contract in 7 days. Now that's going to be different for CTX MLS because you guys count days different. Price per square foot is saying $116.75. They gave $2,000 back in closing costs. They're saying that the condition was excellent. It was a cash and conventional. I don't know how that works. Maybe they put cash down as conventional loan. I don't know. Anyways, that's not as important as this. So it sold fairly quickly, would you say?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move to the next one. Those are, yes?
Sorry. So I noticed a lot of times that the agent won't put a lot of description where it should actually go.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have to look at the pictures to see, like sometimes I find that there are granite countertops and there are updates and upgrades that just aren't there. Like they'll say, see agent, or it just doesn't, it's just not thorough. So is it worth taking the time to look at the pictures too, or?
It depends. It depends. Yeah. Oh, well, yes. So the way, when you may be at the point where I'm at, where when I look at pictures, I just,
But no pretty.
I don't really have.
Yeah, I'm just like, so I can tell you it's bare bones, basic, wood. Okay, this will probably make you dizzy, but that's about how fast I go through
Yeah.
pictures, because I just don't have time, especially if I'm doing 3 or 4 market analysis.
They painted, they put in floors.
Well, maybe,
That looks like it.
because these pictures have been edited, so
Yeah,
it's hard to tell.
Right.
I got a photographer in Temple, and which I actually just hired her, and she said when she takes pictures, if something in the house doesn't look good, she photoshops it.
She's not your photographer anymore.
Really?
Yep, fire. Yep.
They-
So it's against
they
MLS
look
rules?
good.
Nope. It's against MLS rules. I just came back from Washington. That's one of the #1 things that we went over in the MLS forum, is it's against MLS rules to Photoshop pictures. So a lot of agents use Brownie Box, and Brownie Box, they'll declutter a house and they'll do all this stuff. Avis would prefer that you do not do any of that. The basics is if they can't use light to brighten or whatever, then they shouldn't be doing photography. So, and you also can't stretch a room. It has to be true to what its form is. So that doesn't mean take a cell phone picture, because that's not true to its form either. But use a photographer that really knows how to layer images so they can get the correct and true form of what your eye will see. But yeah, I heard Lee say, you can't, I mean, I've had agents, I've seen them green up their grass, and you show up the grass is dead.
Yeah.
You just don't want to set them, your people to come see it up for disappointment when they walk in and go,
Yeah.
this looks like crap. I mean, this isn't accurate.
The best compliment I've ever gotten is someone walks into an open house and like, man, this is so much better than the pictures. And I mean, I have a really good photographer.
That's what you want.
Yeah, because I want them to feel like the house is larger than it seems on the pictures or whatever. Because the pictures got them there. Now the house has to sell it. If this house looks worse than the picture, they're in and out in 2 minutes. And ticked off at their realtor that they even took them there. How did you not know? And we're left there standing in MLS going, but the pictures, right? So yeah, I would nicely just say to that photographer, hey, I appreciate that you do that, but if the MLS finds out, you won't be welcomed to work with the MLS.
Kristen,
Yes.
on the MLS sheet, it talks about the conditions excellent. Where do you go to get definitions on good, fair, excellent? Are you just your own?
It's very much, yeah, it's very much dependent on the agent. I wouldn't go off that. I'm just saying, I mean, you know, excellent to me, maybe they meant that it was clean. I mean, I don't know.
Excellent to me means you don't, other than if you don't like a paint color, you really don't need to do anything. I mean, it's all newish, updated.
And that's her opinion. That doesn't mean that's how it's listed.
But
Yeah.
I don't.
All right, we're going to move on because we're running out of time, and I know everyone's super excited about this. Okay, so the next one we're going to do is 3915 Lord Byron. It has a pool. It's a 4.2.5. It's got 0.15 acres, so it's a little less than what we are. Built in 2000, a little closer. 2,800 square feet, a little closer. So it does have master on main, so that's a comp. Kitchen, breakfast bar, open to family room, has a cooktop gas, which means it probably has, now some people get confused about that, so I would look in the pictures to see if it has like a double oven or an in-wall oven or something like that. View, Creek Stream Golf Course, so that's very nice. That's kind of an upgraded lot. You know, they paid a little bit more for their lot. It has a bonus room up. It also says it has an office and a study. So that might be more than what's on the 4.3. However, I never assume, because sometimes they'll make an office study a bedroom in the numbers and you show up and it may or may not be a bedroom. It depends, because it doesn't have to have a closet to be a bedroom. So,
Not anymore.
no, it's a square footage and ingress and egress situation. And what I would suggest is it's different for every county or city, so you might want to look at specifications if you have a flex space you're not sure how to list. So they'll tell you exactly what's required. It does have to have an ingress and egress, but I can't generalize it for you. I can just say that every city has their own requirements for what a room looks like. Most now don't require necessarily a closet, but it does have to have an ingress, egress, and a certain amount of square footage.
Okay, I have 2 questions.
Yep.
Regarding the pool. So the So do
Correct.
you remove this comp or do you add or?
So it depends. It depends, right? Because if the neighbor if most of the comps here have pools and mine doesn't, then mine might be less. If this is the only one and everybody else doesn't, then mine might be more. But ultimately, what I would ask them is compare what you're about to tell them in price range to what they think. And most of the time is because if they put the pool in, they spent 30, 40, 60, 80 grand. Right? And on average, I've heard about $15,000 being what an appraiser will give for a pool. So, looking up, so just reduce 9,000. If I was the buyer's agent, I'm going to be looking at comps to get that a little lower, just say. In-ground pool, tree, no neighbors behind.
Is there a value?
It's a lot of puffery.
Backing to the green belts? Is there?
Yeah, so on average, you're going to see anywhere from a $10,000 to $20,000 plus on the lot premium. That doesn't mean that it equals out here, but the chances are your seller is going to want to list more if they've recently purchased the home and they paid that lot premium. So it's just going to depend. But yes, if you have, depending on what it's looking out at, if you know, like if it's a golf course, you know, you can never say that view is never going to change because, you know, Forest Creek was just remodeling. They could have sold that and put houses in there if they wanted to. But for now, you could say, yes, it has this view. And I would appropriately price for that. Yeah. Now, if all of them have a view, you're back to square one because it doesn't matter. It washes each other out. So I'm looking down here. Listing price originally was $379.9. It sold for $350. It was on the market 61 days. They gave back $5,000 in closing costs. So really this is around $345. Okay. So that one was $345. Does anyone remember what the other one was off the top of their head? $319.9. Thank you. Okay, moving to the next one.
Actually, 319, and then they gave back 2,000. So
316. Perfect. Or 17, right? All right. So this next one is also a 2-story. This is actually 4-bedroom, 3.5 baths. So that's actually good. This one would be a little bit more, I think, attractive to a buyer because it has that extra bathroom, full bathroom. Again, year built 2000. This is about right on the money for our square footage, 3044, about 22 square feet more than ours. It has 2 car garage, 0.18 acres, so a little bit less. It does have a master on the main, kitchen, breakfast area, breakfast bar, granite marble counters, open a family room, walk-in pantry. That's attractive, right, already. Equipment, built-in ovens, convection oven. If you're a baker like me, that's a plus plus. Cooktop, dishwasher, doesn't mean it's upgraded or updated though. What else? Self-cleaning oven, okay. Water filter owned, that's a plus, and then a tankless water heater. So these people put some money in this property, okay? The view, no views, so it's great they have the updates and the upgrades, but they don't have the view. So depending on your client, it may be valued more to them to have the view. If you know, thinking from a buyer's perspective. However, in Forest Creek, you know that the golf course is never more than a golf cart right away, so you're good. Gourmet kitchen, tons of counter space, stainless steel appliances. 1 bedroom up has its own bath, so that's nice. Tankless water, we know that. Wood and hardwood tile floors, no carpet. That could be seen as a bonus for a lot of people. French doors with the office. Custom wood built staircase, 4-side stone. New cooktop and microwave. Well, I would say recent, but okay. And then walk to schools.
I also had that covered patio.
Yep. Huh? Yep. Cesar sold it, and then Karen Halsema, she sells a lot in Forest Creek. Okay, so the original listing price was $359. It sold for $356. Also with $4,000 back to the buyer, so really $352. 1 day on the market. Okay. So now let's stop for just a second. I know we're running out of time, but I want to kind of go over why this is important to know. Is the one we just looked at sold at $350. $345 after the closing costs. This one sold at $352 after the closing costs. If you were the buyer, which one would you be interested in? For $2,000 difference.
It just depends on.
What'd you say?
I would say the pool and the golf course, and I was looking at the numbers when you had it up there. I don't know why it didn't sell faster than 60 days.
Right.
Lauren's such a good agent. So
What
it
did they
doesn't make
start
sense.
at?
370
It started
something.
at 379. So I was looking to see how often and how soon did they start doing their markdowns, but golf course and pool, it should have got more money.
But yeah, but this one might be closer to the school. Yeah,
Also, this one says it has a gourmet kitchen, the other one.
This one has the updates and the upgrades, and most people want a turnkey property. So chances are the last one, and we can only assume, didn't have as many upgrades. So it has the view, and that's nice, but we don't live in the view necessarily every day. Like, I don't have a great view. Sometimes I open my curtains, but I live in my house. Like, my kitchen, I'm in there all the time. Not that you can tell, but I'm just saying, I'm in there all the time cooking or cleaning or doing something, right? So for me, my valuable space is in the kitchen. If there's not enough updates to compare, this is what happens. Now, this agent, dare I say, they were very smart, because they listed a really good price. They saw what had happened with the last property and said, buyer seller, or seller in this case, I understand that you put in all these updates and upgrades, really, tankless water heater, and granted, those are upgrades. I understand that. However, I want to sell your home for the most money possible in the fastest amount of time, because I know the quicker I sell your home, the most money you'll get. And that is what you want, right? Right. So let's go ahead and price it right. So chances are, if I were the agent, I would have given them a range and say, you could list anywhere from $349 to $375. Let's look closer at what's sold. And so far we have $319. That's out of the running based on what this is. And the $345 is great. It has the view. Well, really they list it at $350, right? So it has the view. Yet yours doesn't have the view, but you have the upgrades. So we're almost in comparison. What do you say we list right in the middle, right? And that's what happened, and they sold quick. Now, there is a chance, even with those upgrades, if the price fixes everything. So even if they had the updates and the upgrades, and they listed, let's say, at $370, they could have had the same fate as the last property. Okay? Any questions on how that conversation would go? Yes?
So that one sold in one day.
Yep.
I mean, if she would have priced it maybe 365 or 370, and it would have taken maybe 15, 20 more days or so, isn't that better?
You're thinking like a seller. Great. This is exactly what your seller is going to say to you. And the reason why you don't want to price like that is because, sure, you could take a $20,000 hit, but we're assuming, let's say it stays on the market more than that. So not only are they going to negotiate with you up front, but they're also going to negotiate with you after inspections. So that $10,000 or $20,000 you might have to come down off the top isn't going to stop there. They're going to continue to negotiate. And we know that you have 3 weeks to sell this house to get the most money possible. So would you rather risk 3 weeks or get the price you want now? You want to get the price you want now. So as a seller, most of the time they're thinking, well, $5,000 won't make a difference really. Or I want to leave some room in there to negotiate. But we know that that room to negotiate gets tighter and tighter as time goes on. And before you know it, they're upset at you because you've listed their house and everybody else around them is selling because those agents are pricing competitively. And what you've done is now you're chasing the market. So will they still sell? Maybe, probably. Will they sell for what they want? Probably not. And it could be a difference of $5,000. So, however, you do give them a range and say, this is the range I suggest. I suggest you price from here to here. Here's a net sheet for the highest price. Here's the net sheet for the middle price. Here's a net sheet for the lowest price. Most of the time, they're going to see it's not a huge difference in what they take away. But it may be important for them to sell quickly. It might be important for them to be able, especially if they're under contract on something else, to get this sold and under contract. If they're playing, kind of testing the market, and they're not sure if they want to sell, they know that the market is really great, and they want to list for the most money to see what they can get, it's hurting your reputation too. So remember that when you're listing. This is where you need to be the strongest in having these conversations, because the most important thing is, one, protecting their interest, and two, being able to know when to walk away. And if they're pushing you on price, you may think, well, I'll just reduce it $1 a day or $1,000 a week or whatever. But what you're really doing is you're hurting their bottom line every time you do that. Because if I'm coming in, or if Lee's coming in, we know we're going to go in there and we're going to negotiate the heck out of you. Because at some point they're going to have to sell, or they're going to just take it off the market, which then hurts your bottom line, because you probably paid for photos and staging and you spent a lot of time doing open houses. Any questions on that?
Just looking at it from a buyer's perspective.
Yep.
Can you just kind of give a quick, I don't know, how to best use CMAs to
Yes.
make the best offer?
Give me just 1 second, we'll go there. Okay, so this is the last run. This is the one that, or no, it's not the last, but this is the one that's active. It's got a pool and a slide, so that's a benefit for the one that had a pool, right? Not so great for ours, because I don't think ours had a pool. Did ours have? No. 3120, it's a 4.2. It has the master on the main, 2-car attached, built in 2005, so it's a little newer than ours. Kitchen, it's got the Korean counters. Pet-free home. New pump installed in the pool. That's only really important if you like a pool. Overlooked family room. Here's the thing, guys. The other thing is, don't puff this stuff up, because us agents, we know really what we're looking for in the agent remarks. You can make it fancy for the internet stuff, but also be careful of your puffery too, because that could get you in trouble. Acclaimed Forest Creek Elementary School. Yeah, just leave that out. They can do the reviews themselves. So, okay, so it's been on the market 40 days. They originally listed at $369,900. I think they're still there. Are they not still there? Oh, nope, they've dropped it to $359 on the market 40 days. Okay, so then I would show this and say, okay, we've got one that's sold at $352. We've got one that's sold at $350. And now this one's listed at $359. It doesn't seem to have quite the upgrades as the one. It's got kind of basic colors. It's got oak cabinetry. So if it were me, I'm already thinking in my head, we need to be, because of our updates, we probably need to be in the 340s, possibly 339. That's what I'm thinking so far. Anybody else got another number in their head that they're thinking? 345. Okay. Okay. Does this property have oak cabinetry?
It's exactly like that.
Okay.
It had Korean countertops, and then it had a 2-story open living room though.
Okay. Okay, so let's look at this last one real quick. Listed, it listed for $369,900. It sold for $335,000. 18 days on market. They've only gave back $309. No carpet, all wood or tile, renovated kitchen with new cabinets, quartz countertops. So I said $339,000, right? This one sold at $335,000. Yes, sir.
You said it listed at $369.
It listed at $369,000.
Sold at $335.
And it's sold at $335,000. Yes, sir.
What's the square footage on that one?
Huh?
What's the square footage?
In 18 days. The square footage was 3128, so it was a little more, 2.5, and it also still had a master on the main. Do I have your permission to go 10 minutes over? You guys all okay with that? If you have to leave, you can leave.
So,
We don't know.
Can I interject on that real quick?
Yeah.
I've worked did a couple offers on the same agent, and I noticed the same. I remember that being the same thing. They were listed far over, and we offered what we thought in range, and their sellers wouldn't.
Well, originally, if the other one was active at the time, then you would get, sorry, the comp would say it should be listed around 360, right? Because the last one listed at 369 too, if you see. So they may have started out around the same time. I'd have to go back and do the math. But the reality is, it doesn't matter if it's equal. It doesn't matter. It matters about the details of the property. It matters about the layout of the property. It matters about the smell of the property. Price can fix anything. You have a cat smell, a dog smell, whatever, a teenager smell. I have one of those. The price can fix that. Okay? So we're looking at the property now. You can go down. It talks about like loosening up your criteria if you do it, if you need to. So what you want to do with this is take all the numbers. So this one sold at $335. I didn't write down the last one. Let me look at. Oh, the other one is because it hasn't sold, but it's listed at $359. Well, it dropped in price, but now is what's important, not then, because I'm going to list now, right? So right now it's $359, and that's really our competition. Okay, so we know, all we know right now is it doesn't have a pool, doesn't have a view. It's got oak cabinetry and Corian countertops. We saw the one that was listed at $352 that had all of these upgrades, and I would say, I mean, with the tankless water heater, upgraded granite, upgraded cabinetry. This one also, this last one we looked at had new cabinets, right? That sold for $335. Yeah. So this is a comp. Let's look at what it looks like in there. Okay. So this alone, if this sold for $335, that has now hurt my listing price because I was saying $339. Now, we're not going to be chasing the market, hopefully. So even if we list a little over what this one sold for, we should be okay as long as the market is showing that. We have other comps that say, okay, we can list a little higher than $335. We have ones in the $340s and the $350s, right? So we can still list over that. But here's what I'm going to tell you, and this is where you're going to have that hard conversation with your seller, is I am here to protect your best interest. I'm not here to have a fire sale. If we underprice it too much, we'll probably get multiple offers because everyone's going to want to take it off the market, which is great for you, and then we can negotiate. The reality is if we price it right, we will sell it quick with one really strong offer, and someone's going to follow through all the way as long as there's not a surprise at the end with negotiations through the inspection, right? So the goal is still to sell it quickly. It's just not to give it away, which is what you're worried about, because that's typically their fear. I don't want to just give away money. But the reality is, bottom line, is if you choose to overprice, what you get is going from $370 in their head to $335. I don't want to be that agent. I would rather just say, hey, you know, I'm not the right agent for you. I will definitely refer you to someone that I'm sure be happy to take your listing, right? And it's okay to say no, because again, it's also your reputation. Then you have to stand in front of someone else who's in the same neighborhood, and they're going to say, why did you take a $40,000 hit on that property? Why couldn't you negotiate? What happened? Right? So the buyer side, real quick, what you're wanting to do for appraisal purposes is you're going to want to look at the same comps. You're going to want to see what the seller's perspective is, maybe what the listing agent did. You can ask for their comps. They're not required to give them to you. But what I'm doing is I'm looking at why this one sold for $335. Because this one is gorgeous. And I'm going to use this comp all day long as a buyer's agent. Because I know that this one, the one I'm listing, isn't going to comp to this one. Like as a buyer, in my buyer's eyes. Because they're thinking that kitchen probably cost $25,000 at least. And that's if they didn't change out, which they didn't change out the tile. And it's new cabinets, it's not painted cabinets. Because even painted cabinets cost about $4,000 to paint that size of a kitchen, right? So, and I'm not sure even if they might be soft close. And would they give me the fridge? Because that's a tri-door, actually a 4-door fridge, right? So as a buyer, I'm using this against the listing agent. Does it? There you go.
What did she say about the cabinet?
They're soft close. So does that make sense? So as a buyer's agent, I'm using this all day against the seller because I know that this sold for $335. It is a valid comp. That doesn't mean that there are others, but I like to stick to whatever I can find that's over updated and underpriced.
And
But
so
as
you would include that with the offer, just be like kind of this is where.
no, but I would have it available and ready to go when the appraiser calls you. Yes.
But if you're pulling comps for the last 90 days, it seems to me, now I don't know what it's like in Georgetown, but what I've seen in Bell County and McLennan County is that the market in February is totally different than the market in May. I mean, because I've seen houses that you could give them away in February, and they'll get multiple offers in May.
Well, and the point being, though, that you would know your market enough.
Is that the same down here? Is it this February like really?
Not necessarily. And this one just sold in April, so this is only a month old. So real quick, I'm going to do the math on this. So 339, and we're at 3022. So
35,000 in 18 days.
mm-hmm. So
That's another thing. There could be other mitigating factors like that.
okay, let me go ahead and finish this out. We can finish conversation after because I have people watching. We're going to start another class. But I want to show you how to check your work. I don't want you to be the people that press a button. You can go to Cloud CMA as long as you understand what it's doing and how you can trust and know the numbers so you can negotiate, right? Just one second, ladies. But I do want you to go and check your work. So you come up with a number based just on the MLS sheets, basic, foundational stuff, come up with a number. And then you can pull a quick CMA, you can pull cloud or RPR or whatever it is that you're using, that's fine. Just know why you're choosing those numbers. And what I'm looking for is to see how close to on point I am for a list price. So I said 339 is really where I think the bread and butter is. But I really think they could go to maybe 343, and they could necessarily get right under 335, so they're not hurt by that other comp, right, in reality. So I'm going to go and look. So the active listing is priced at $359 at $115 a square foot. The only time I look at square footage is just to make sure where I'm at and making sure I understand so I can negotiate with my seller and the appraiser or the listing agent. So lease is sold. I'm going to look at the average listing price is $116.13. The maximum, or I'm sorry, and the median is $116.85. Average days on market is 22 days. Overall, sold listed is $117. Sold is $116.13 with 25 days on market. And my recommendation at $339 leaves them about $112 per square foot. So $339 would put them at $112 per square foot. So I would say that I'm pretty much right under where I need to be because we're in May. It's going to take 30 days to list. That means we're going to be in June. Once we hit July, the market starts to slow down. August goes even lower. So I'm trying not to chase the market. So I don't want to list over that $116 a square foot because if I do that, I'm going to sit on the market. Daniel.
Is that the cloud thing? Is that the market analysis you just clicked?
This is just a quick CMA at the bottom.
Okay, from MLS, right?
Yeah.
Just on it, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, my listing, I don't use, yeah. I have agents who will just click the comps and click this and circle this and say we should list around that. The problem is you don't know why. And if a seller asks you, well, why can't I list for $15,000 more? You can't stand behind any of these numbers. Correct. Correct.
Is it okay to provide that to
I do provide this, yes, and I write all over it. I'll highlight why. I'll put the notes on these ones. Remember this house was this. Remember this house was this. Yeah, I do use this. Yes.
I have a question about foundation repair.
Sure.
Because I've asked appraisers, they say they do not minus anything from the value for foundation repair because it has a warranty.
Sure.
But it seems like a lot of clients are hesitant
Mm-hmm.
to go with that. So do you have an opinion of pricing a house with foundation repair?
So the question is, do we take into account a foundation repair? How many people that are currently selling have mentioned foundation repair to their buyers and they walk away? Okay.
Almost all of them.
Okay. So even though appraisers might not reduce, if I was listing a property and I'm giving them a range, I would advise them that it's best to be competitive at the lower end of the range. And you're always giving a range, even though I'm saying to you 339 is probably where the bread and butter is because that's basically what the numbers are telling me. I would still allow them to choose, but I'm only going to give them a short range. And if they're outside of it and they're negotiating me out of it, I'm probably not the right agent for them.
And personally for you, say this house had foundation repair, what would you price it at?
Then I would take that 335 and I'd be very serious about pricing under that. So I'd probably give them the range down to 328. Yep. Any other questions? Was this valuable? Are y'all, do you feel like you have some good information? Okay. Yes.
So you don't adjust the comparables and do a comprehensive?
No, I don't do any of that. I just show them this.
Okay.
I'm not an appraiser, so playing like that, unless you have some kind of background, is risky for me. So I just don't do it. I take them this, and I think this tells the story enough. But it's okay if you use RPR as long as you're comfortable with it. That's fine. But I just don't.
Do it out of MLS.
Oh, that's fine too. You can do that. Have you taken some appraisal classes or done? Yeah. Even as long as you're comfortable with it and willing to stand by those numbers, I'm okay with it.
Well, I found, and probably everybody already knows this, but in the MLS, there's a complete listing presentation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you do your CMA in there and pick what pages.
You're talking about probably RPR.
Well, there's
Or Cloud
an actual
CMA?
Full CMA.
Yeah.
Just at the bottom of that, it's.
Yes, yes, the other version of that. You can use any easy button you want to. All I care about is that you know the numbers before you press the easy button, okay? So, because I have my own listing presentation that this stuff goes into. But exactly what's done, I print out the CAD, I print out the comps, everything that you would have seen. I've highlighted all the sections. I print out this quick CMA. It goes into my market analysis. It's sectioned out, active, pending, sold. And that's the same CMA that I keep in my loop to give to the appraiser if there's any issues. In fact, I drop it off at the house before the appraisal. Any other questions? I know this is like basics, foundational stuff, but I hope you guys got something to take away from it. Let me see if Beth's here. She is. If you have any questions about mobile home lending or appraisal process on lending, she'll answer them. And then we're going to have a lease class. There's donuts and kolaches out there, so enjoy. You're welcome. Let me go grab